This is Off the Ice, the Nanaimo Clippers hockey show on 106.9 The Wolf. With the latest news on the Clippers and the BCHL, here's Dan Marshall.
It is Off the Ice, the Clippers hockey show. The month of October is here. 2 games in the books already for the Clippers. Mixed results. A big 4-1 win against Coquitlam on Saturday and a 5-3 loss to the Vernon Vipers on Sunday. And today, interior conference action we preview with the Trail Smoke Eaters in town on Friday and then the Powell River Kings on Saturday. Third meeting already in the young season between the Kings and the Clippers. That season series is 1-1. But a home weekend for Nanaimo coming up. We'll talk to the head coach and general manager, Mike Vandekamp, off the top. Also joined by Jamie Collins and Ian Beck in our second segment. You'll hear from Clipper alumni and leading scorer last year, Sheldon Rempal, and also a conversation with Brent Laz, the new president of the Canadian Junior Hockey League. But as we always do, we want to give you a chance to win some tickets to an upcoming Nanaimo Clipper home game. Any home game, if you're our winner. Go to our Facebook page, go on Twitter at 1069 The Wolf, and answer this question. It's multiple choice, so making it easy for you. Joe, what's our trivia question for today?
All right, Dan. It is, who is Nanaimo's leading scorer? You're going to have to forgive me if I pronounce some of these names wrong. Is it Matt Kramer, Sean Geeson, or Ben Solon?
Nicely done. You got all the names right. Mm-hmm. Because you're a big fan, I know that you're following along. I knew you'd get that. All you have to do is pick which one of those 3 is the Nanaimo's leading scorer right now. And go to Facebook, go to Twitter. What a great prize and an easy way to win. If we have multiple winners, of course, to go into a draw, and we'll pick the winning name just before 8 o'clock comes around. Mike Vandekamp, the head coach and general manager of the Clippers, joins me now. Coach, a 3-game week, and boy, the wide swings in play this week. For me, that's one of the big stories. Each game was so very different, and I didn't know what I was going to get from one night to the next, and sometimes on one shift to the next.
Well, there's no question that consistency has been a problem for us early on in the season. This week is a prime example of that, and I think it was somewhat to be expected, I guess, maybe early on in the season, just a pretty young team, pretty new team, and you would expect some inconsistency in our play, but it doesn't mean that you accept it, because I know I certainly don't, and I think that's what we'll be striving for moving forward is more consistency for sure.
When you're talking about that with individuals and within the team itself, it's one thing to say, guys, we need to be more consistent, but there has to be a first step on that ladder. So as the coach, how do you help guys get to that first step on the ladder to try and become that exact thing, more consistent?
Trying to have people understand, guys understand that, they have to have higher standards for themselves. I think that's really important. That they're not followers, that they're all contributors to our success and contributors to our lack of success. We're all part of a team here. I think early on, especially if you're a new member to a team, sometimes you can feel that maybe you're not as important as someone else or whatever, so you're not as responsible. But in reality, everybody here is really responsible for the outcome in every game. And I think right now what we're struggling with is the understanding of how hard you need to play every single shift in this league to be successful, how focused you need to be at all times on the team game and on your own game, and your own game within the team game, and discipline and focus and all those things. And we just can't seem to piece it together for 60 whole minutes consistently yet.
When I was talking to Justin Donahue yesterday, he was talking about the 9 targets within a game that you want to reach. And one of the positives he pointed to was you did get your targets for the amount of shot blocks. That was a positive about yesterday. But when you look over the first 9 games, are there some targets consistently within your game of those 9 that hey, this needs to be our number 1 or 2 priority in terms of meeting this one more often than not?
I think each area of our game needs work in its own way. But I think the thing that jumps out obviously right now is special teams. Our power play has been kind of a non-factor, although we've chipped in a little bit here and there. Again, I kind of expected that. There's all kinds of players in new situations out there. And then the penalty killing has been totally lacking in consistency. I mean, we've had games where we've been very good, and we've had stretches where we've killed, 15 in a row, and then there's games like yesterday where the penalty kill was a major factor, and so I think that stems from the goals right out. We need to be more consistent in net. Your goaltender is a really important penalty killer for you, but also I think just being able to adapt to what other teams are trying to do on the ice, like our on-ice intelligence, our reads and ability to read and react to what's happening it needs to improve. I mean, you can have a game plan in place, but at the same time, you still have to have the ability to read what's happening on the ice and adapt to while the play is happening. And I haven't been as happy as I'd like to be with our decision making at times on the special teams or in all factors of the game for that matter.
I know you're not a big guy on a guy's going to get more ice time from me because he's a veteran guy. You tend to try and pick the hot hand, pick the guys that are going. But could we see that becomes even more pronounced, that it's not necessarily a guy's birthday? Because I think guys are getting more comfortable. And I think, honestly, since day 1 to game 9, your youngest players have probably made the most strides in that time versus some of your older guys.
The age doesn't matter at all. I think all of our players have been inconsistent, to be honest with you. I'm not sure we've had hardly a consistent player on our team so far, and that's all ages included. So that's the tough part. Is it seems like sometimes you can give a guy a little bit more of responsibility or ice time, based on what he's done in the last game or the last period, and then as soon as you do that, he's not able to take it and run with it. So he kind of takes a step backwards, and then you kind of try somebody else in that situation. And that's the hardest thing about coaching, I think, is if guys are inconsistent, then you really don't know what you've got and how you can spread that ice time out. I agree with you overall. I think our younger players, and I think you'd see the stretches of the game, latter part of the game last night, we certainly gave more ice time to some of those guys, and, they responded and played well. So hopefully, what you hope is that if you start to just increase their ice time and responsibility a little bit more each game, that they're ready for that and they can take that and run with it. And that hasn't really happened early on in the season, like I said. And our older players, particularly our older guys that played with our team last year, are in situations right now that they have had zero experience in at this level of hockey. So they're as much a rookie in those situations as anybody is. And that's just because I think last year's team, a lot of the real important minutes, especially special teams minutes, were taken on by a group of players that aren't here anymore. That's normal, I suppose, at this level. I mean, we had some really good defensemen on this team, older defensemen last year that are now no longer here. We had a top couple of lines that played a lot of important minutes for us, and especially on the power play and penalty kill. And none of those players are back, and these new guys or these returning guys are in these situations, and it's all new to them. So, you can't expect miracles. I think you got to keep working with people. The only time I get frustrated is when I know that we've been a little bit outworked or intimidated with situations or, that type of thing. And I believe that's happened at times, to be honest with you. And, that's the frustrating part. But we're only 9 games in, so it's a long season.
You and I have talked about this. Even with 2 years ago, a championship team, and last year, a championship team, recognizing key moments. And it took both of those championship teams a lot of time to do that. And I thought a real example of that for this evolving team yesterday was the fact that the game was up for grabs at 2-0 for so much of the night. That first goal, if you were able to get that when the game was 2-0, it changes everything. And that key moment was, I think, the one where they make the game 3-0 early in the third period. But that's an example of a key moment, and a goal at the right time would have been a key moment in that game. But that's not something that's unique to this team. We talked about that with your championship teams. That's a process in itself.
Well, that's part of the maturing process that a team goes through, is learning how to manage the game, learning how to feel what's happening in a game. I mean, yesterday we took a dumb penalty in the first period. We're not good enough to do that yet. That's the bottom line on that. I think we've taken lots of dumb penalties. Every team does at junior level. They stick out way more right now because we're just not good enough to make that type of decision. When you become good enough, you can play yourself out of that. And we're not at that stage yet as a team, and we'll get there, but we're not there yet. And so that was a costly moment in the game. We didn't kill those penalties. We got behind. But from there, we kind of took over a lot of the play, to be honest. I mean, it settled down a little bit in the latter stages of the first, and then through the second period was where we had our opportunities, and we had a couple really good power plays in the second period last night that we should have scored on and didn't. Came very close to scoring. We missed some really good opportunities offensively last night with open nets, pucks laying right close to the goal line, that type of thing. We missed an open net at one point. We got to bear down on all those situations because those end up becoming real glaring when it still remains 2-0, and then they obviously score in the first shift of the third period. So I think we had plenty of opportunities from that latter part of the first all the way through the second where if we would have capitalized, hit the net, bear down, some of those things, we could have changed the game 100%. And so there are definitely some key moments in games that are, biting us in the tail here right now still. But we're focusing on yesterday's game. The night before, I thought we were an excellent team, and I mean, we played an excellent game on Saturday. We had a few lulls in the game, but overall, we dictated the play, and it doesn't matter who we're playing right now. That's the biggest thing we have to understand is, and people would say, well, one night you're playing Coquitlam and the next time you're playing Byrne, and that doesn't matter. It makes no difference. We're totally 100% in control of our own destiny as a team, and we're good enough to play well. If we'd have played as well Sunday as we did Saturday night, we would have won that game too. It wasn't anything to do with our opponent. A lot of what's happening to us, we're giving the other team for free. You got to start giving, you got to stop giving things away for free, or obviously you're not going to win games.
When you take that next step as a coach, where do you gauge the need for, we need to have these guys on the ice more. Our ice time, our practice time is the most important thing versus, we need to be watching more film. That's the most important thing. That's, I imagine, one of the juggling acts that you go through. But how do you decide where the biggest need is, practice time versus video time and those other off-ice things?
I guess maybe just a little bit of a gut feeling on where the guys are at. I think we kind of went through that this weekend. We sort of stepped away from the video stuff and that, and just we've sent a lot of the messages that we need to send. Not all yet. I mean, there's a lot of detail that we can still build into our game, but the guys have been given enough information, and I think we ran into some time there where a couple things happen. I think one, there's like paralysis by analysis, where guys are too busy thinking about things on the ice, and when you're thinking too much, you're not moving your feet and you're not playing just by, kind of hanging it out there naturally and just playing, and I think that's what you need to do. So it takes time to build with enough repetition and keep the consistency in the message that stuff becomes habitual, so you can just hit the ice and just play real hard, and your habits are going to kind of lead you in the right direction. We're not there yet. We're not even close to there. But the problem is you're trying to create those habits. If you have to think, what is the coach asking me to do here, or what am I supposed to be doing here? I mean, it's too late if you're thinking like that while you're playing. So purposely you sort of back off and you try to maybe just allow the guys just to play a little bit more, and we'll learn from our mistakes as we go. That was kind of my read on it. The second thing that happens is I think guys are afraid to make mistakes. You get going into video and that, and you don't want to be the guy that, when the whole group sits down the next day, there's my 5 plays all being used as examples that, need improvement. And, and that's the wrong attitude. I mean, you should want to be the guy whose play or decision on the ice is being used as a positive example, and take charge of the situation. And that's what we're still kind of pushing our group for, is you need to have more confidence in yourself and more sort of swagger, if you will, and believe in yourself more and hit the ice and just play, and don't be afraid to make mistakes, because we haven't hammered down on guys on mistakes around here all year, to be honest with you. We're okay with guys making mistakes. We just don't want to be outworked and intimidated at any points in games, and those are the things we want to correct first.
You play in 5-game segments, and that next 5-game segment will start on Saturday night in the Powell River game. But you're not going to make this second segment. So how do you work with guys on the mentality there? The segment has been missed, but do you make it so, hey guys, if we didn't make this segment, we can still make it up. If we go 4-1 in a 5-game segment versus the 3-2, we can make up the loss that we had. Is that how you approach a game like Friday, segment-wise?
Absolutely. We've actually missed segment goals last 2 years. Only one in each season. It doesn't matter when they happen. It's going to happen. And it's happened. Like I said, we won the division 2 years in a row with moments where we didn't quite meet our goals. So that's junior hockey. That's the way it is. We can make up for it later on in the year by having a real good run at some point. But, right now we got to worry about Friday and try to get, 2 points there, and I guess we'll finish this segment of games off with only 4 points if we do it. But that's okay. We'll start fresh on Saturday and just make sure that we chip away and start to really work at being more consistent as a team as we go along. And it's very important that we respawn from games where we didn't perform well. And I thought we did that this week. We didn't play very well on the road in Powell River. We played, really well the following game. And we just didn't follow it up with a great, with a good enough effort. So, now we got to bounce back again. And obviously the goal is to try to get away from this roller coaster ride, or it's going to be a dizzying season if you're going to try to go through that all year. But I'm convinced that if we stay consistent and keep working hard with the team and keep teaching, learning, pulling together as a group, we'll be where we want to be by the end.
Coach, appreciate the time. We'll chat again later on in the week.
Sounds good, Dan. Thank you.
That is Mike Vandekamp, the head coach and general manager of the Nanaimo Clippers. We're going to have a couple of the players in to join us next, Jamie Collins and Ian Beck on Off the Ice. We are back live on Off the Ice, the Clippers hockey show. I've got Ian Beck and Jamie Collins here to join me for our second segment. We're going to talk about them, a couple of new faces, and there are many to the Nanaimo Clippers this year. We're also going to play a game in this segment. The game is called Taller or Shorter Than Ian Beck. Ian's listed officially at 6'6", 225. Ian, is that an exaggeration at all, or are you really 6'6", 225?
I think that's pretty accurate.
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to have maybe the inside track on this game we're going to play in a few minutes. Taller or shorter than Ian Beck, our game on Off the Ice today. But let's start with Jamie Collins, first of all. Jamie, welcome to Nanaimo. You've been here since training camp. You've known for a while that you're going to be a Nanaimo Clipper. How has it gone early days on and off the ice here?
It's been great. I came in a couple days before camp just to get settled in with my billet family, and my billet family's been great. And, we've got the season started now, so it's been great just meeting everyone and getting to know the community. We do a lot of community events around, so it's nice to get to know the community before they come out and watch us.
You went to Culver Military Academy. So what was school like there, and what was the hockey like there?
School was pretty different than what I was used to before. It was very regimented, so I would have inspections and stuff like that since it was a military academy, but the schooling was great. And the hockey was also great. It was just really overall developmental place to be, and it really helped me.
When you're at a military academy, as they call it, is that something that you really gravitate to and you might look down the road at the future, or was that just a place to really go and enjoy the experience and play hockey?
At the time, it was just a place to go and kind of play hockey and go to school, but the military definitely grew on me a little bit. But it's not just the military aspect of it, it's the leadership part of it mostly. So I think it gave me leadership skills, but I don't know if I would want to do it later on in life, but it helped me right now.
I think your ability to produce offense drew the Clippers to you, but what was the draw between you and the Nanaimo Clippers? Why did you choose to want to come here and play?
Just the history of the Clippers in the last couple of years. They put together great seasons, and, I just really wanted to be a part of that and really wanted to be a part of a great community in the BCHL, so I decided to come here.
You've generated a lot so far with your offense, but you haven't been rewarded yet. But do you feel like you're knocking at the door, that's just about to break through?
Yeah, I think so. I really hope so. I think I'm almost there. So hopefully in these next few games I break through and start to have a good year.
You've been playing a lot with Crozier and Millette. What do you like about playing with those two guys?
I think Crozier's just a real strong player. He came to us pretty recently, and right away you're kind of drawn to him, and he's someone that you look at that you want to play with just because of how he plays the game and how he sees the ice. And Millette's just a really powerful forward out there. Every time he gets the puck, he's always looking to make plays. He's always looking to get pucks in deep, and he's always forechecking hard. So they're just two great line mates to have by your side.
You're committed to Clarkson University, and there's a couple of Nanaimo Clippers that just left to go to Clarkson that you probably know something about. What do you know about Devin Brasso and Sheldon Rempal that were here last year?
I've heard lots about them coming here. I know they've been key players in Nanaimo and key people in the community. So, I'm just looking to kind of do what they did basically and have a good year like they did. But no, I've heard great things from them, and obviously they were great players here.
To start this week, you put yesterday behind you. You put 3 games last week behind you. You have a win, you have a couple of losses, but you leave that in the past. But what's the message that you had from the coaches, and what's the message from your team leaders this week as you head towards the Trail and Powell River games?
We kind of just had to put those games in the past. I think we did have a good game against Coquitlam, but our consistency wasn't there for the Sunday game. So I think we have to kind of put that in the past and regroup as a team and see where we're at, and kind of use this as a maturing time in the year and just come out this weekend and play some good games.
We've got Jamie Collins and Ian Beck here. Let's move over to Ian. You haven't been in Nanaimo that long, Ian, but how are you enjoying the experience so far?
Coming in Nanaimo, it's been a great experience. I was born in Chicago, and we don't get the mountains that you do here, and the scenery. It's just beautiful. It's a beautiful island. The people are great, and it was a really easy place to adapt to. So I'm really happy with where I'm at.
People will just look at your size and try and pigeonhole you as, oh, well, he must be this type of a player. But how would you describe your style of play as a defenseman?
As a defenseman, I would say I'm a two-way defenseman, but definitely more defensive. And I got to make sure that I play defense first. Being a big kid, getting your feet to catch up with your body has always been a struggle, but working at that every day has definitely helped and developed me into the defenseman I've become.
You mentioned that can be a challenge. People always ask that of a bigger guy. How's his foot speed? But what are some of the advantages that you're trying to use as a 6'6", 225 defenseman? What are some of the things that, hey, that really plays into your skill set, your advantages?
Yeah, definitely having a bigger stick. It's much easier to take away the forwards' time and space. And winning battles down low, getting the edge, and keeping the angles on the forwards limited to making some passing plays. It's been beneficial too in the offensive zone, being able to pinch on the forwards, and my stick's just right there, and taking away time and space is huge.
Where do you see yourself fitting in with this team, and is there a defensive partner that you've enjoyed playing with so far that you'd like to gain some chemistry with?
My role on this team, it's going to keep it simple and be a puck-moving defenseman. I've been able to play with Sean Geeson a lot, and him and I have had great chemistry, both being young. I think we do have a similar style of play, but we also complement each other on our flaws and also our advantages as players. I was able to play with Pilot and Crossley in the earlier games, and they've also been great too. So I'm excited to work with everyone.
You obviously are from Illinois. You've played in Milwaukee, from what I understand, and even in Minnesota. But you're in a Canadian city now. So just aside from the scenery that's really, really nice, what have you noticed that's different about being in Canada?
There's been a lot of differences, that's for sure. It's definitely a more chippy style of hockey. You can get away with so much more being in Canada. And I like that as a player. It feeds on to higher levels, and it's been really beneficial in my play because I like to think of myself as a scrappy player too. So I really like the style in Canada.
Mike Vandekamp's noted for his structured way of playing. From where you've played in the past, is that a big adjustment to the things that Mike wants you to do, or are you finding it pretty easy to get?
I think it's not too far off from what I've used to playing. The systems we've been doing, I did it back in the States, and I think it's been an easier transition than I actually thought it would be. So, yeah, it's good.
We're going to play a game now. Normally we have our call bells in here. In this case, it's going to be like elementary school. You raise your hand, and the first person to raise your hand gets to answer our question. The name of this game is Taller or Shorter Than Ian Beck. Ian's 6'6". Jamie's not, but that's okay. You guys can still play along, and we'll see who's going to get taller or shorter. Lots of questions. Starting with this one. So you raise your hand. Don't blurt anything out. Raise your hand, and I will call on you, just like we're in the third grade. Taller or shorter than Ian Beck? A giraffe.
Taller.
Ian, you were first. Taller is correct.
Taller.
1-0 Beck. Taller or shorter than Ian Beck? Steph Curry. Jamie.
Shorter.
That is correct. Shorter by a couple of inches. Standing up. So you have to imagine this thing standing up. A grizzly bear. Ian.
I'd say taller.
Taller is correct. 2-1 Beck. Number 4, a Chevy Astro van. Jamie Collins.
Shorter?
Taller by about 2 inches. From the base of the wheels to the top of the van, it's 6'8".
Wow.
According to the online height guide for the Chevy Astro van that I was looking at today. Don't ask me where I came up with that. Here we go. Okay, this is a longer one. If you cloned Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones and stacked 2 of them on top of each other. Ian Beck.
I would say shorter.
He's actually taller. He'd be 9 feet tall if he was cloned and twinned.
Wow.
He's 4'5". Taller or shorter than Ian Beck? A velociraptor. Jamie Collins.
I'm going to go shorter.
Shorter is correct. In fact, the only main dinosaur that would be shorter. All of the rest of them would be much taller than Ian Beck. In fact, there was a guide on that using Chris Pratt from Jurassic World as the guide, and he's even shorter than Ian, but taller than a velociraptor. Joji, what's our score?
Right now it is 3-2 for Jamie.
Jamie's up 3-2. This is a tight one. Question number 7. Taller or shorter than Ian Beck? Stacked on top of each other, 50 pucks. Ian Beck.
Taller.
Shorter. 6 feet. That would be 6 feet. You are 6'6". 50 pucks is 6 feet tall. According to every comic book database I could find, Superman. Jamie Collins.
Taller.
Shorter. Superman listed at 6'3". Ian Beck is taller than Superman.
Wow.
That's something that we should use on a broadcast at some point down the road. Novak Djokovic. Jamie Collins.
Shorter.
Shorter is correct. He's only about 6'3". And the final question, the average beaver dam. Ian Beck.
Shorter.
Shorter, correct. You are taller than the average beaver dam. Joe D, what's our score?
Jamie wins at 4-3.
4-3, and Jamie, you win an incredible movie prize pack from Off the Ice. The movie Gone Girl.
Oh.
And microwave popcorn.
Yeah.
We know what you're doing for your Monday nights.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Jamie and Ian, very gracious guests on Taller or Shorter Than Ian Beck.
You've been listening to Off the Ice, the Clippers Hockey Show. Join us again next Monday night at 7 on Nanaimo's Rock, 106.9 The Wolf.